yeah, really, obviously we had areas last week. Moving on really into the care plans a little bit more. So if I come into the show care plans,
Yes.
I'm going to go on care control test again and come into the care plan.
Yes.
So in here, I'm going to go on the folder on the left-hand side. So we've looked at these first few tabs last week to have a little look. When you'll have the video again. If you've ever got any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, okay? Always happy to revisit areas if needed.
Yeah.
Moving on down to these next few tabs
Yes.
today. So we've got the risk assessments. If I click on that one, there is some risk assessments built into your system for you, ready to use. And you can create your own risk assessments as well, which I'll show you where that is and how to do that in a moment. But if I show you these ones here, if we click on your risk assessment and click to edit at the top of the screen, click to change, and you get your yellow screen so that you can edit, and you've got your risk assessment here. So this is the falls one. So you mark whichever is relevant for that person. So correct answers to that service user. When you're happy and you've completed it, click Save Changes. So if I save that one, it will save it onto your system, so you can see that I've completed it today and the date. And as time goes by, when you're reviewing them, so they'll come up once a month for you to review and, save the next one. You'll see a history building here. So if needs be, you can click back in, 6 months ago and look at that risk assessment back from then if you wanted to. Same for all of these. If I go on the movement and click and change, got your yellow screen. And down here, it's just a case of answering and filling in the boxes for that risk assessment. Click save, and when you've saved it, it will show just like the other one we've done here. So it will show in the comment box there. All right, you can click and open it and view them at any time. So then, once they're completed, that's not it. You can click and view in, you can show people, etc. You can send them on to people if you needed to. All right, is that nice and easy enough? Making sense?
Yeah. Quite. Yeah, straightforward. Yes.
Yeah, good. So as I said, you can create your own risk assessments because there is never-ending amount of risk assessments. And when you think you've got them all, there's another one that comes along. So if I go to full admin, go to your care planning tab, and just underneath here, you've got generic risk assessments. So this is where you're building a new one on your system. So building it here, you're keeping it generic so it can be used for anybody. So you could create a risk assessment here and it can potentially be used for any of your service users. So all you do is add new, add in the name of your risk assessment. I'm just going to put test CC so it's nice and clear. Click continue. And then down here, you've got add new line. So I'm going to click on that one. And a lot of people, it's up to you guys, but a lot of people in here will have like just a guidance. So for that person completing the risk assessment, what do you want them to think about, take into account, really what do you want them to sort of think about when they're completing it? Guidance for the person completing. Okay. Over here in this drop down, if you select guidance, it will just be literally a guidance field at the top of your risk assessment. Then you need to start adding in your questions. So again, add new. And this is where these blue build line buttons come in. So this is where you're keeping it generic. So click on that one and then you add in your questions. So it could be and using these tabs, first name, understand that, that's he, she is just as an example. So I've written the question and you can test how it's going to read. So down here, when you click on here, you'll see a list of all of your service users once they're on here. You can select whoever and then test template, and it will show you how it's going to read in that person's care plan. So if you had Joe Blogs, it might say, does Joe understand that he requires a sensor mat, etc. It will make it personal to each service user. Okay. Once you're happy with your question, click Save Note Template. And then you need to decide how you're going to answer that question. So at the moment, it's on risk levels. All the way through, when you're creating a risk assessment, you can save changes and you can click try it and have a look, see what it's going to look like. So you've got your guidance at the top. your question, and this is the risk levels, and you've always got a comment box on the right hand side. But this one's more of a yes or no answer. So on here, in the drop down, select yes or no, save, have another look. That's better for that question. So you've got, does he understand, yes or no, and then you've got your comment box. So depending on your question, you can decide how you want to answer it. So you've got the risk levels, yes or no, not applicable. 2 field entry is literally just the question and a comment box. And obviously you've got your guidance field for that area at the top. So there's lots of options there. And while you're creating it, you can always save it, quick try it, have a look how it's going to look like. If something happens, as life does, and you're in the middle of making it, come out of it. It doesn't matter. When you go back in, it's in your drop down to select, and you can carry on editing and creating that risk assessment. Okay. You can edit a risk assessment as long as it's not attached to any service users. When you've finished and you've attached it to a service user, you can't come in here and change it because obviously it's a live risk assessment. But if you were to create a new risk assessment, you can use it as a template to create your new one. So you haven't got to do all the work again if you're happy with how it is, etc. All right.
Okay.
Once you're happy and you think, yeah, okay, that's good to go, want to use that one, all you do then is go to your manage monitoring, select which service user needs that risk assessment, come to add new, and it will show in the drop down box for you to select and then put in the frequency that you want to review it for that service user, etc. Once you've attached it to them, it will then show in their care plan in that risk assessment tab for you to complete for them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So any of them that you add will show in this list for you to click to edit and then complete for that person. Okay.
Yeah.
The next little area down below, we've got consents and capacities. So if your service user's got if they've got the capability to give consent, you'll need the consents on the system. So at the top, click to edit. And so we're in the consents tab at the moment. Add new consent. And again, there's some in the system ready for you to use. And again, you can create your own ones, which I'll show you where that is again in a moment. But once you've created any new ones, they will show in this list again. So you can choose your consent area. How often do you want to review this consent with just this service user? So this is making it personal for that person. So Mrs. Care Control, they might be all right, and we're going to do it every 6 months with her. But Joe Blogs, it might be every 3 months, etc. Has the service user got the mental capacity? So on here, if you put no, it won't let you go any further because you'd need a mental capacity assessment in place rather than a consent.
Okay.
If you put yes, it then asks, are they able to sign? So you can do your consents using your devices, so the phones or your tablets, and your service users can sign with their finger, which is great fun. But for sometimes it just doesn't work for whatever reason. Maybe they can give consent, but they can't physically sign, for example. On here, you can put no, and then you've got the drop down locks. So you can choose maybe they saying yes or nodding, etc. In the witness by, if you select member of staff, because you'll be logged in, your name will be there on the consent. And then you just save the consent, and that's on their care plan. Whatever frequency you've selected, it will come up on the home status to prompt you that it needs reviewing in this case 6 months time. Is that
Right.
nice and easy enough, that bit?
Yeah.
Okay, while I'm still in the care plan, I'll go on to the mental capacity. You may have some that will need that. If you do add new mental capacity assessment, again, there's some in the system ready for you to use. Okay, and again, you can create your own, and then when you have, they'll show in this drop down for you to select, and I'll show you where that is in a moment. Enter in the detail about the decision under the review. You can get an example note. So if I click on that one, it will give you an example note. You can, if you like it, click to select. You can edit it still if you want to, but it's there to help. and then move down into the actual assessment itself. So going through each question, select the relevant answer, enter the detail, and again, you've got the example note option. And you can see, depending on what answer I choose, it's changing the next question that's coming up. So go down, right down to the bottom of your mental capacity. When you've reached the bottom, then come down here. Decide how often you're going to review this MCA for that service user. So it may be monthly, it may be longer or shorter, depending on who they are and their needs. And then in here, this box, this is where you record their best interest decisions. So if they've got any doles in place, any details of that, who it's been discussed with, the date, etc. of that doles. So it's in here where you record the best interest. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yes.
So once you're happy, save the mental capacity and it will be on their care plan, and it will come up on the home status to prompt you to review it with whatever frequency you've chosen.
Okay.
If I come out and go back onto the full admin again and into that care planning tab, at the bottom here, you've got the two tabs, mental capacity and consents. This is where you're creating them on your system again. And again, like the risk assessments, once you've created them, you can then use them for whoever, all your service users in the future if they needed it. So if I go on the consents, these are the ones that are already in the system. If you scroll right to the bottom, there is always an empty box ready for you to create a new one.
Okay.
So in here, you would add in your consent detail. And then again, you've got the build consent tab. Again, use these tabs to keep it generic, and then it can be used on any service user that's going to need that consent because it will make it personal to them. Enter in your consent details. Have a little look at how these ones are done by using the build bits while you're learning how to do them. That's what I did. And then in here, this is a default frequency. So this is a default for anybody. So generally it's a 3-month with consents. But then as you've just seen within their care plan, you can change that frequency to suit each individual. Once you've created it on here, there isn't a save button, which threw me completely at first. When you come off, it automatically updates, and that consent will then show in that drop-down list in their care plan for you to select and complete. Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Mental capacity templates. If I click on here, you may need to create some. Again, you would do add new, add in your mental capacity, and it will then show in your drop-down box to select. You'll need to go through and create each area. So assessing information, communicate, decision delayed, etc. So for each of these areas, use the build template option again and keeping it generic. You have got some guidance down here. So view guidance, you've got this, which will help, and it really does help from experience. We've also got a very good step-by-step guide, which I could send through to you if you wanted me to.
Yes, please.
Yeah, write myself a little note, send MCA. I'll send that through to you after. So it's really handy to have actually while you're creating them because they're a little bit more in depth. But once you've created it here, save changes, and again, it will show within the care plan for you to select and complete for that person. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. If I come back into the care plan again, and I'm going to come down here. These are the tabs here. The food and drink. I click on that one. It's really what do they like, what don't they like. Tea with milk, 1 sugar, they don't like sausages, and it's click to edit at the top, as you're probably going to you will get very used to doing. Come in here again, you've got checklists. So that's another area that I'll go through with you. Checklists are brilliant.
Yeah.
You can create them for any non-care related tasks. So you're going to go and see Joe Bloggs on a Tuesday and you're going to help him check his food dates, put the bins out, feed the cat, etc. like that. It's really useful. You can create checklists for service users or for staff. Yeah, it can be for anything really. It could be for your night staff, what jobs you want them to complete during the night. It could be Yeah, literally, I love it. It's like your big to-do list. I'll go through
Okay.
that area in a second with you.
Okay.
Just to explain these other ones, really, you've got the monitoring analysis. This will show you any monitoring that you've got in place for that person. And if you click on it, it will load you some information once you start using the system.
Okay.
Incident analysis. So on Care Control, you've got your accident incident form, which you can complete for your service users, your staff, any visitors, anything like that. When you, and it will happen because accidents do, don't they? You will.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they will. So you'll see any information of those accident forms in here. You'll see a summary data for that person, and you'll see any of the accident forms here, which you can click and then view further. As managers, when you view more detail, there's that option on there for you to add your post-incident log. You know, so what have you done about that accident? You've removed the rug that everyone keeps falling over, for example. You've spoken to the family, or they're all okay. Whatever your comment is, that's where you would add in that post-incident log. And CQC, they like that
Hello?
area. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of disappeared for
Oh
a
no.
second there, sorry.
Oh dear, hopefully I'm back and you can hear me okay. I was just saying the
Yeah.
post-incident log, CQC, quite like that area because obviously it's you as managers following up on any accidents that have happened.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay, so if I come back out in the folder again, a little bit further down, you've got history and diagnosis. I click on that one. In here, if you've got any, I know your people, they're young people, 16 and over, but they may have health conditions. So if you've got any of that information that you can add in onto their care plan, it will be really useful. Medications, we kind of went through adding your creams last week. Are you happy with that area? 'Cause you don't really add a lot of creams. Am I remembering rightly?
Yeah, because we don't do like personal care.
Yeah. So I wouldn't worry about those ones. Health issues may be an area that you might use. So health issues can be created and used to monitor anything needed. So it could be that they've got a cut or a bruise on them from somewhere, or they've bumped their head, they've fallen over, accidents happen. So you can create a health issue so that to make sure your staff monitor those areas for that service user or young person. So to do that, on here, we click to edit. And then at the top here, we've got add new. It's a really good area of just keeping an eye on something and making sure it's checked, especially if you're going to be changing any dressings or if you've got district nurses involved or anything like that. It shows that you're monitoring that as well. So
Okay.
just for an example, they've got a rather large bruise, for example, maybe on their left shoulder. So up here you could put, let's put bruise on left arm. How often do you want to make sure that the staff are prompted to check that bruise, make sure it's okay? So it could be you want staff to be checking that on a daily thing if they can, or it could be just every couple of days, 3 days, maybe once a week, depending on what it is. Add in a description of it. So it could be that, you know, because they join you after like coming out of care, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it could be when you're first getting to know them, you've noticed that bruise or that cut. It's a way of you recording on the system that you've noticed that, but also that you're reviewing to make sure it clears up all okay, maybe.
Okay.
Your initial treatment plan could be just to observe, or it could be to ask district nurses to have a look. Maybe the cut looks a bit dodgy. You never know, a bit infected.
Yeah.
You can also create them on your devices. And on your devices, you can take a photo of the area. When the health issue then comes up to be reviewed, you can take new photos, which will hopefully show the area getting better, healing, disappearing. All right, and then on the body, mark on the body where the health issue is, and then save health issue. What I would say is if there's more than one, like say, yeah, I don't know, they've got a bruise on their arm, a cut on their leg, for example, have a health issue for each area because everything heals at a different rate.
Yeah.
when you've got any health issues created, if you come in here, you'll see the numbers on the body wherever the health issues are. When you click on the number, it'll open up that relevant health issue for you.
Oh, okay.
All right. And then obviously the ideal world, the health issue, it gets better, it all heals, disappears. When it comes up to be reviewed, you've got the option to close that health issue then. But it's always here. It will always be in historic health issues. So you've got that history to go back on if you needed to as well.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Mm.
It's quite a good area. It can also be used, depending on how long they're in your care. It may be, they've got a long-term health condition. They might be diabetic, they could be
Yeah.
asthmatic, in which case you can create a health issue for those as well. And it will just come to prompt to make sure that health issue is reviewed. So maybe if they're asthmatic, it might come up every 6 months, maybe for a doctor's check. Or yearly, or whatever they need. So it's a really useful area to just prompt you to check, make sure that that's okay and it's going along all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I come back in again, a little bit further down. So any medical visits. So if you do assist any of them to see any doctors or nurses or like that, maybe a district nurse is going to come and change a dressing, or they're going to go to the surgery and get that changed. You would record that as a medical visit, so seen another professional. When you record that area, it will then show in here in their care plan, most recent medical visit at the top. But you can also record a new one from here. So if I go add new, this is what it looks like when you record. So you've got your visit type, your location, visitor details. And again, if they have got that health issue active, it will show in this drop down for you to link them together. When the health issue then comes up to be reviewed, you see all notes in one place rather than having to go searching.
Okay.
All right. You've got the option to red flag this visit. Now, this means if I was to select 3 days, for example, whatever I write in this medical visit, it will generate a note into that young person's care plan. But it will also generate a note written in red, which will stay at the top of your handover notes. So all staff are made aware that's happened.
Oh, okay.
Add in the reason for, why did they see them, and the action, the outcome of the visit. And when you save, you will see it in here in their care plan. All right.
Yeah.
A little bit further down, we're nearly at the bottom now. Linked document. So linked documents can be anything that you would normally file. So it could be letters from the doctor, it might be letters from social workers, or from from their previous home. Anything you would normally file, you can save on your PC and then come into here and do add new. Add in the name of the document and the description. In here, I would call it a client document. If it's something that you want saved on their care plan, but not for everybody's eyes, so maybe it's got a bit of safeguarding information in there or something like that, you can password protect that document, but obviously make sure those that need to know the password, because they won't be able to open it otherwise. Come down and go browse, go and find in your PC where you save that document. And then when you click continue, it will ask you to check you're happy it's the right document and click continue. When you've done that, it will then show in here across the screen with a big green button on the right hand side to click and view that document at any time. And as I said, if it's password protected, it will come up for the password. If you don't know the password, you won't be able to view the document. All right.
Yes.
So it's another really good area. I don't know if this will be relevant for you guys. You've got personal belongings. If I click to change. Yeah. It's literally a list. So it is literally a list of what they arrive to you with. So you'd enter it in, enter a description. What I would say is if they've got something that's particularly sentimental or expensive or just very special, I would record it using general notes. So if I just come off of here a second, on your devices, if I go record information and general note. So on your devices, when you're recording a general note, you've got an option of a camera Okay, or if you've got an image saved on your PC, you could do it from here. I would load the image, and in the note I would put personal belongings. That'll make it really easy to find if needs be, but it's got an image, it's got a picture of that special item, and it's logged and recorded in their care plan, but it's got that photo added to it, which I think is really good. All right.
Yes. Okay.
I come back in. Life history may or may not be relevant for you, and you can change these sections actually, which may be better for you guys. At the moment, these are the sections that we have. So family life as a child, school days, etc.
Yeah.
When you select them, it'll open up the questions in that area. So you'd select it and then write in their response. So it's a really good it's kind of a getting to know you communication. It's an activity. It's a conversation starter, if nothing else, isn't it?
Yes.
Sometimes it's quite hard. You can amend these if you wanted to.
Right.
Okay, if you feel that something else would suit you better. So if I come on to the full admin.
Yeah.
And in the care planning tab again, over here, you've got the two tabs here for life history. So you've got your sections.
Okay.
So you could change them here. Okay. And then if you go into your the questions, you can amend your questions here. Okay. So once you've done those two areas, it'll update in their care plans there for you to complete. So if you want to amend it slightly or change it, you can do. Okay.
Okay.
And then I think we're nearly at the very bottom. Yeah, we are nearly there. So activities, if you're going to record activities for your young people, if you need to evidence what what your staff are doing, whether they're joining in with clubs that you do or anything, anything you're doing, cooking, anything.
Yeah, budgeting. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can have it as an activity. If your staff record that activity, when you click on here, it will show a list of all the activities that your staff have recorded with that service user and by who's recorded it and when, which is really good. Okay. I'm going to come out of here because I'm going to go on to checklists because I think this area is going to be really good for you. I'm just going to give you lots and lots of information. So on here, you've got communications and you've got checklists. So as I said earlier, you can create them for anything. It could be like you've just said budgeting there. Is that something you would do maybe with your young people like once a week or something? Go through what they've got and how much they've got to be able to spend and it could be anything. It could be literally anything. So if I click on checklists and down the bottom, create a checklist.
Yeah.
Just click continue here. Enter in the name of your checklist. So again, you can make it as an individual. So you could make it Joe Bloggs's checklist, or you could just create it I don't know, house check, for example, or just as a sort of, it can be used for anybody. So think about how you name it. Enter in your description, and then a little bit further down here, who's going to mark off this checklist? So I'm going to go for staff role. And imagine here you've got support workers or care assistants, whatever their role is going to be called. You would select that from here and click add over. You can have multiple. Okay, so whichever staff role. So whatever staff role is on shift or doing that visit that day will be able to mark off that checklist with that service user or young person. A little bit further down, this one here, you can do a checklist as a one-off or you can have it as a repeating. So if you put yes, you can have it coming up every day, weekly, monthly or yearly. So it maybe comes up once a week on a Friday, for example. So it can come up as the frequency you decide. I would leave this one here as administration rights because I think it's better for only guys like you that have got full admin access that can come in and amend and change things.
Yes.
And then down here, if you tick this one here, if you assign it to one of your services or young persons, when your staff mark off that checklist, it will automatically generate a note in their care plan for you with any note that that staff member's marked off. So you haven't got to mark the checklist off and then go in their care plan and write a note. It does it for you.
Okay.
So we've made kind of, if you like, this is like your front cover of your checklist. So I've given it what I want and how often I want it. So save changes. It'll then open up like this. So we've got the front cover of it. Now we need to put the jobs within it. So you've got add task. And then in here, it could be feed the cat. Oh, can't spell. Feed the cat. What's the priority? I think it's very high. Be hungry. You've also got a free text entry, which I think is good. So it gets your staff to write a comment when they're marking off that task. So it may be like, now I'm going to go and feed the cat, but actually they've only got 1 tin of cat food left. You know, I could write that comment. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
In and click continue, and you can see the task is added. All right, so you can have as many tasks as needed, or to-dos or jobs. All right, so we've made the sort of front cover of the checklist. You added your jobs in. Now you need to decide who you're going to give this checklist to. So again, if you're creating a generic one, it can be given to a multiple. It could be given to anyone that needs it, or it could be a checklist for an individual. Down here, you go to assignments. It's gone on my other screen. And then down the bottom here, you do add new. And you'll see any checklist that you've created showing in this drop-down list for you. So select your checklist, assignment type. So this is who you're giving it to. So it might be you're going to do it for one of your young people or service users. It will show a list of them to select. Or it may be that you're going to give it to, I would say staff role is a better one, but it may be you make a checklist just for yourself, in which case choose yourself from your list. All right, so select and then just save assignment. When you save it, that's on your system then. It will come up on the home status on the frequency that you've set for that person for your staff to then complete. You guys then as managers, obviously you need to see the outcome of them checklists. So if you needed to show anybody, like you just mentioned budgeting, you could have within that checklist, you know, they're checking their bank statements, you're helping them with bits and pieces, whatever you do. You might need to prove that you're doing that, for example. So if you come to common options, go to analysis reports.
Yeah.
And in this one here, you've got checklists and you've got your report here. If I run, oh, we're going to need to look at, care controls security. Okay. So this would open up your check off. There's going to be nothing in there anyway at the moment. It'll open up that checklist for you. It will show you the date, the time, the person that's completed it, the checklist questions, and any outcomes that your staff have written. And on your reports, you've always got an option, it shows about here, where you can export it to Excel, save it to your PC, and then you can attach it to your emails to send on if you needed to anybody. All right.
Yeah.
How is oh my D, I can't speak. How is all that? That's a lot of information, and I am aware that you've still got quite a bit from last week as well. Do you want to leave it there for today? So I don't want to overload you too much.
Yeah. Yeah, quite a bit to take in. Yeah. I think this would be a good point, and then we'll go through the videos as well once I put them on the platform. I mean, on YouTube, upload them there.
Yeah, no problem.
Recap. But yeah, very, very, very useful information.
No problem. Okay, so I'll stop this recording.